This week's dangerous heat wave is already putting stress on the state's power grid.
And we hate to tell you this, but rolling blackouts are a possibility tonight. As temperatures are expected to intensify, we will be pushing the limits on our power supply.
And we are now in the window of the highest concern, that is this evening through next Wednesday. As a result, Governor Newsom has declared a state of emergency.
All right, so as of an hour ago, we're also under a flex alert. Power regulators are asking all of us to dial back on our energy use. That flex alert goes until 9 o'clock tonight, but then it'll kick in again tomorrow at 4 p.m. So one very important way that we can all cut down on our power usage is by setting thermostats to 78 degrees. Just remember that number, 78. And also hold off on using those major appliances.
Also, CalISO issuing an emergency and energy emergency alert. It means from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., all available resources will be in use. Governor Newsom blamed parts of the state's energy problems on our ongoing drought.
Hydroelectricity is not as reliable as a consequence of this drought and the lower reservoirs we're seeing across the western United States and certainly here in California. So we're losing megawatts. Mega drought means less megawatts. So on a supply side, we're challenged by these extremes, and on a demand side, not surprisingly, people are turning up the AC. People understandably are trying to escape the heat.
CalISO, the agency that runs the power grid, says this coming heat wave will send energy demand to its highest level of the year, close to 48,000 megawatts.
We're paying very careful attention to the load forecasts and the potential strains on the systems between this evening and Wednesday, September 7th.
All right, so let's build on that. Here's how power officials are elaborating. They say rolling blackouts are a possibility at this hour. They are not an inevitability, meaning that if all of us do our part, we could avoid those rolling outages and blackouts that we all saw in August of 2020. That's when, of course, a record heat wave triggered back-to-back nights of blackouts affecting hundreds of thousands of customers. Let's get right over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Paul Hagan. He's tracking this intense heat. Paul.
Yeah, and it's that combination of intense heat and the fact that if there are blackouts, then people aren't going to be able to escape that heat. So plan ahead, have your devices charged up. Overall, the power outage risk is going to remain in the slight category because despite the high temperatures putting stress on the grid, the winds aren't going to be that strong. If we had this heat combined with strong offshore winds, we've been into the moderate or high risk of more widespread blackouts. So on a place-by-place basis, it's a slight risk overall, but still have those devices charged up and be ready to find other ways to beat the heat in case the power does go out. The excessive heat watch has now been upgraded to an excessive heat warning for all inland parts of the Bay Area. High temperatures beginning Saturday are going to range from the mid to upper 90s in the Santa Clara Valley to above 100 degrees for inland parts of the North Bay and 105 to 110 inland in the East Bay. It's still an excessive heat watch along the coast and around the Bay. On the coast, I don't think you're going to need to be upgraded to a heat advisory. I think that's still possible around the Bay, even though temperatures aren't going to be as hot. The overall heat risk, forget about the specific numbers, just what's the impact going to be? Moderate means that people with health issues may have some problems because of the heat. The high risk in those red shaded areas means that even the general population may have some heat-related health problems, and that becomes much more widespread as we head into the second day of the three-day weekend. Sunday and Monday are going to be the hottest days overall. Take a look at the specific numbers coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, so to talk more about our state's energy supply, joining us live is Severin Bornstein with UC Berkeley's Energy Institute. We thank you for joining us. So earlier this spring, the State Public Utilities Commission warned that we might see these power outages, these rolling blackouts as we call them, and now here we are.
Yeah, that's right. We are seeing a really bad heat wave that is bad both because it's going to last for many days, longer than a typical heat wave, and also because it is very widespread. It extends all the way inland into the Rocky Mountains and up to the north. So this is the sort of heat wave that can really cause problems. California imports about 25% of the electricity we use, and it's harder to get power from those neighboring states when they're also having a heat wave.
Yeah, we're all feeling the crunch. So how much of this current energy crunch is related to the state's transition to green power? Is it having an impact on this?
Well, it's certainly related to the fact that we are transitioning away from coal and natural gas and towards more renewables, in that later in the day, as the sun sets, is when we're starting to see the problem, rather than the problem where it used to be in the middle of the day. But that is completely manageable, but we need to be able to bring in resources to address it. So one of the things we have added is we've added 4,000 megawatts of battery capacity over the last few years. Those are going to be a huge help late in the day. But this is all coming about due to climate change. And we're seeing these sorts of west-wide heat waves that we didn't used to see. And we're seeing heat levels that we didn't used to see because of climate change. So the transition is necessary, but it will require some real changes in the way we run the grid.
Yeah, and some of those themes we're working on as a CBS family is tomorrow airing a special about drought, and we do talk about climate change, so an important conversation. But you know, just a moment ago, we aired the governor. He's recognizing that we have a supply issue as we make this transition to renewables, and he's backing money to keep that Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant operating beyond 2025. Do you feel like that's a good idea?
Well, that's a tough call, and I actually haven't dug into the numbers enough. On the one hand, Diablo is great. It's a very efficient nuclear power plant that runs over 90% of the time and provides 2,000 megawatts of baseload power. On the other hand, relicensing a nuclear power plant is really expensive. And so they're crunching the numbers to try to figure out, is this really the most cost-effective way to make sure that we can maintain a reliable grid? And frankly, I don't know the answer on that.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I think we're all going back to 2020 when
Right.
we had those blackouts and hoping that does not happen over the next week or so. Thank you so much for joining us, Severin Bornstein from UC Berkeley.